Happy 2-year dialogue anniversary. I don't think I've used that term in a while, but today is June 20th, 2018, and 2 years ago I started talking to myself on video, and the process kind of took on a life of its own. And I was doing that because I felt like there was a lot that I wanted to talk about, and the easiest way to talk about all of it was to talk about it with myself on video. And it's been 2 years, and I feel that the process has helped me stay out of the hospital because I was diagnosed bipolar. And since I've been doing this, talking with myself, I've managed to stay out of the hospital. So I don't know if it's one of the factors that has helped me, but I think it is possible. So I do want to continue with it in some capacity, but I don't know what, because even though my phone says it has 40 gigabytes of space, it's sort of giving me trouble when I'm trying to save the videos. It's saying there's not enough space. So I might switch to audio for a while, or maybe not talk to myself so much. But I'm wondering if it's still good to talk to myself every day because of how it's sort of like checking in with myself and keeping that relationship going that I've built with myself or with whatever. I'm not sure. I probably should keep it going. Maybe I'll just talk to myself a couple minutes a day and then string those together. Just talk about one insight a day or something. And I am still doing the process of taking less meds or what have you. And last night I took like 2/3 of a Benadryl, and I took half a trazodone and the 2 quetiapine, and then the other stuff that I take that are supplements. And so I still should continue to track that process. I might have to remove more off my phone, that's all. So I can figure that out. I'll figure out what I want to do with that. And thinking about exploring other things to talk about. And this morning when I woke up, I started to get up and everything, and then I felt so tired that I laid down. And I don't know if I was sleeping or what, but I could see things, like that remote viewing thing was happening. I was sort of like looking into myself with closed eyes, and I could see this energy, which I can usually see. Even when I open my eyes, I can see it. But it's more there when it's dark and my eyes are closed. And I was noticing that the patterns at that time sort of look like the curves of the brain, like how the outside of the brain looks. And I was wondering if I was looking at my brain in a way. And then I was wondering if by looking at my brain and observing the energetic flow of it, if that somehow was healing to the brain. Like to look at the brain itself through the inner eyes, as opposed to looking at the images the brain is making. And then thinking one is thinking those images or thinking those thoughts. So I was really looking at what was there just as pure observation, not as an eye looking. And I noticed I saw a flash of an image of a dog, and then a few minutes or like a minute or 30 seconds later, I saw this in the brain energy. I saw this movement of a pattern looking like a dog. So I don't know what I was seeing when I saw that flash of the dog, but then I could see it. And before, years ago, I remember when I was falling asleep, I could see this energy in my brain because that started years before. It started in my early 20s, and I could see people dancing as I would fall off to sleep. Like that energy would turn into people dancing, and now it turns into all sorts of things. What a beautiful bird. And so I continued to watch the images forming, and some of it was personal memories. And then it changed, and I was just watching different things. Like at one point I saw these fingers sort of like playing on a guitar fret. It was very clear. And then that, when I would see it so clear and then pop out of it, I guess maybe consciousness coming back to the body or something, it would give me a bit of a jolt. So it feels like that same sort of process is happening as was before, like remote viewing and consciousness sort of leaving the body, if you will, and then coming back, and that really startling the body. But this time I was exploring it as a fascinating process. And so when I came back to the body, like noticed the felt sense of the body again, it just sort of went, and I was awake, in this world where I noticed the body. And then consciousness would travel off again, and there'd be like nothingness. And then I realized that by observing those, whatever it was I was seeing, and I wasn't seeing it through my physical eyes, and I think I was seeing other places and times. I was that. All I was. Like, I literally didn't exist in that moment. It was just that flash of whatever was seen in that empty space. There wasn't an eye seeing it. If the eye was thinking, I wouldn't be able to see those things, because the eye would be thinking about itself. So, and then I realized, or there was a realization that that process was so discontinuous. So if at one moment I was in my body, as a body, feeling sort of half asleep, half awake, like whew, and then the next, a few moments later, all I could experience was this scene of whatever it was seen, whatever it was being seen. It was so discontinuous. So there was no continuity of self. It was popping in and out of seeing different something somewhere else or wherever. It's really hot. I'm going to take off this jacket. And then I was listening to this audio on my iPhone, and when I woke up, I was woken up by a phone call, but I woke up and I picked up Krishnamurti's notebook, and I read the next bit where I left off. And he said, the brain had lost all its responses. It was only an instrument of observation. It was seeing, not as a brain belonging to a particular person, but a brain that is not conditioned by time-space, as the essence of all brains. So I was feeling kind of like that's what I was coming to when I was observing this process happening, was that the brain was an instrument of observation, not belonging to me. Like, these observations had nothing to do with me and my past and my conditioning. So it was interesting to me because that's literally what I saw my brain was doing when I was sort of observing this process, or whatever was observing this process. And then I picked it up and read that kind of exact thing in the book that I had left off in. So I think there's really something to this discontinuity. And sometimes when I am awake, I feel that tired, and trying to figure out why is there this tiredness. And so tiredness would make the body want to lay down, so not resisting that. And then maybe that's what the brain needs to process, is some of that stuff, some of those images, and just rest and be discontinuous. And I think that's part of what has been happening all along, but since I was so busy doing with that energy, didn't really give the opportunity to have these sort of days or hours of rest to observe whatever it is that the brain wanted to observe, not me and what I want to do. So I think there's a lot that could be understood from this. And so I want to try and figure out a way to communicate that to people or something. I really don't know what to do. But I feel a little bit more awake now, and I'm going to go sit in the sun for a while and then go back up and eat dinner. Yeah. I just got a message from the mental health center. They were supposed to refer me from one city to another, but they were asking if I have a doctor that can dispense or prescribe my medications. So I think they're not going to refer me. I think they're going to say you don't need it anymore. Probably because I haven't been hospitalized in 2 years. But I've still had a lot of challenges, so I guess I'm really on my own. It's just me and my meds. There's mosquitoes here. Last night, I think I hit the wall. Yesterday, I watched all of Netflix Wild Wild Country, the Osho story. And so I stayed up kind of late, like 12:30, and then I was trying to sleep. And I took my regular sleep stuff. And then all of a sudden I felt this wave of fear, and it felt like my heart was beating in a way, and it beat it and like released this poison, like this black ink from my heart that then diffused through my whole body. I could feel it. And I felt terrified, and before that would probably be heart pounding and then experiencing some scary stuff in mind. But there was nothing in mind. It was just the feeling of fear, and that it felt like something was draining out of my heart and then spread out through my whole body. And I laid there with it. I wanted to get up and take something, but I laid there with it until it kind of stopped, which took a few minutes. And then I realized that every time I was trying to sleep, my body would just jerk awake, jerk awake, and jerk awake. And I couldn't sleep, so I got up and I took another whole trazodone. And then, I don't know, I think I tried to sleep and I couldn't, so I took a Zopicone. And it was kind of terrifying because it made me feel like there's this poison in my body that is gonna make me end my life. And it felt like it was sort of like one with my body, so that when that impulse comes next time, I don't know if I'll be able to stop it. I don't want to think in this way, but it really felt like it sort of sealed that as possible, because now it's like
it's in my body. And it's not something that I can stop with my mind. I don't know if that's true. But then I've gotten through this before. Yesterday I had it in my calendar. It said, beware of this night. So it's like I already knew. So yeah, I don't know if that's true. Hopefully it's not, but I slept in until 12:38. So I did end up getting a good sleep. And then I've only been laying around watching the series Touch on Netflix. And it resonates with me because it's all about following signs and patterns and things that don't make sense linearly or logically, but sort of make sense as they complete themselves. And they only complete themselves if we follow those signs. So my brain feels like it's not working. I was trying to read some of my notes about the balancing brain biochemistry stuff because I always forget certain things. It's hard to remember all of it. It's impossible. And something I read in there was that I could take up to 12 sunflower lecithin and during psychosis or whatever if I need to sleep, and I've only been taking 5. So I could probably try to play around with upping that and possibly falling asleep without the Soplicone. And I didn't call the mental health center today and tell them about my doctor. I feel like I want to ask them to put Soplicone on the prescription because at least it helps me sleep. And if I have to continue to really drug myself a lot until things get better, then that's what I have to do. So yesterday night was the 20th, and I think my actual crisis last time was October 17th. Wait, so October, November, January, February, March, April, May, June. So that makes today 8 months since the crisis, or 8.5 months since the first signs of it last time. So this is probably the real crisis because now it feels like my brain's not really working. Whereas before, my brain, it was working. So I think the difference now would be tomorrow to see if I can start really boosting my brain. like taking more of the neuroplasticity ones, or trying the dopamine booster, tyrosine. I haven't taken that in a month, but it could be good to boost it to be able to get stuff done. And now I'm here by myself in sanctuary, which is good. Today I took 2 serine, I took 2 SAMe, I took 6 uridine, so that's 1,500 milligrams, because those are for the worst suicidal days. I'm having some suicidal thoughts. It just kind of sucks to have a brain that doesn't work congruently with the situation, because I'm in a good situation right now, but my brain is choosing not to work. And that experience of that whatever coming out of my heart last night was really freaky. But you know, it's no more or less freaky than last time, where I felt like I was killing myself in my brain, but knew I was laying in the bed. Same, I had this fear and knew I'm just laying in this bed. So we'll see how this next while goes. I've been watching that show Touch and just sort of crying. I cried through part of the first 2 episodes because it's so beautiful when things are meaningful. And the brain can't operate that way sometimes. So when one falls out of that, it's really painful. And the show talks about the little boy who's autistic, feeling others' pain, and the patterns are to try to resolve that pain by resolving those situations, which requires following the signs. And I've talked about myself with myself before, about how this sometimes feels like feeling others' pain too. And I don't know how to fix the pain that I've caused. And I know that ending my life won't make it better. But it feels like it could happen, and I won't necessarily want to do it. It's just might happen. That could just be how I feel right now. This is the time now where it could be 3 hard months and then I'm feeling okay again. We'll see how it goes. I'll see how I sleep tonight and then go from there. Tomorrow, I guess I may as well experiment with a brain boost. See what happens. See if it makes a difference. There's no self there, but it feels like it right now. Changing the biomolecules changes the brain. I know now why that dog shook water all over me. It's because I was about to go into crisis and bad things happen. It's like I become a magnet for bad things.
It's funny, after I talked to myself and cried, I got up and I cleaned a few dishes that were in my room, and then I cleaned my toilet, and then I ate some salad when I was only planning to eat some chia seed butter combination from Costco off a spoon. So, and now I feel like I can continue to read some of the balancing brain biochemistry stuff, which is good because I've been laying in bed all day watching that show, and I could continue to lay there, but my back eventually hurts. So I think it's good to do other things and be sitting up for a while or go for a walk or something. So I say all that stuff, but I really don't know what's true and what's going to happen. I think maybe I just need to cry sometimes, like Fight Club. And I think a lot of times the meds, they stop that from happening for a prolonged period of time. And then it still needs to come out at some point. So I'm thinking that it would be good to continue to talk to myself, even though I don't really have much space on my phone. Today I'm thinking that I probably will go home after the week is over because I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but I could always come back here possibly if it's not the right decision. But what's interesting is how I talked to myself and cried, and then my brain went into being able to function for a little bit. So maybe that's a thing that I could try to do when I'm non-functional, is talk to myself for a while and then see what happens. Maybe all of a sudden my brain is able to function because it's talked about some of what is there. And a lot of it will be really self-centered stuff. And I've tried to talk more about insights and meanings along the way, or that's where my brain was at, but I haven't talked as much about the self-centered stuff to myself in this way. So I don't know. We'll see.